Hi, today we're going to talk about the glomerular filtration rate and the forces that are involved. Okay, so let's do a quick overview at what we're looking at. In the diagram, the one on the left of the man, you will see the left and the right kidneys, the uteral tubes, and the flow down to the urinary, the bladder, and the urethra. So if we look closer in the kidneys, we'll see the nephron, the functional unit of the kidney. In the colored illustration on the right, the dotted line shows you're looking inside the kidney. It shows where the cortex is on one side and the medulla of the kidney is on the other side. On the top left, you will see the renal corpuscle, and it's connected to the proximal convoluted tubule, and it will travel down through the proximal straight tubule into the loop of Henle. And this continues upward or ascending through the thick limb of the distal convoluted tubule and back down through the collecting duct down to the bladder. So the reason our bodies make urine is part of the process of keeping us healthy. We eat and we drink to produce energy and building blocks to keep our organs and tissues healthy. So there are some substances that must be eliminated in order to prevent a toxic buildup. So the main substances that are eliminated in urine are the metabolic waste products, electrolytes, and water. So the kidneys are the natural blood filter for the body. The production of urine is made all the time, even if we're dehydrated, because the body must keep the internal conditions in homeostasis so that everything in the body operates properly. So each kidney contains somewhere around 1 million nephrons, and the two kidneys filter the blood through about 2 million glomerulus every minute. So the glomerulus filters out cell, protein, and fat-free fluids. And after reabsorption of certain chemicals, it is excreted as urine. So this is the body's way of getting rid of waste products and excess fluid from the body. So every minute the kidneys eliminate around 1.5 liters of urine a day, and the kidneys filter a huge amount of blood. It's about 25% of the cardiac output. So 1,300 milliliters through the glomerulus each minute. That is amazing if you think about it. The rate of ultrafiltration is called the GFR. So every day, 180 liters of water in addition to small molecular molecules of blood are filtered. So the GFR is what we use to measure the kidney function. The most widely used measurement is the creatine clearance, and it's done by measuring the amount of creatine in a 24-hour sample of urine and the amount of plasma using a specific formula. So how does the glomerular filtration work? So when we talk about the plasma, we're talking about the liquid part of the blood. So the plasma contains the dissolved solutes. So the blood enters the glomerulus, which is an area of blood capillaries. So, and the capillaries are the very smallest parts of the blood vessels. So the glomerulus is a tangled looking bunch of capillaries that sit inside a cup like a sac area on the nephron. And this area is referred to as the glomerular capsule. And the capillaries in the glomerulus capillaries have small pores in their walls. And this works to filter like through a very fine mesh. And the capillary beds are usually positioned between the arterioles and the venules. And the hydrostatic pressure drops as blood moves through the capillary bed into the venules and veins. So the glomerulus is placed between two arterioles. Afferent deliver blood and efferent carry it away. So constriction of efferent arterioles when blood exits the glomerulus gives resistance to blood flow. So this will prevent a pressure drop, which really doesn't restrict. So the two arterioles change in size to increase or decrease blood pressure in the glomerulus. And the efferent are smaller in diameter, which means that the pressurized blood enters the glomerulus through a wide tube that will exit through a smaller tube. And these features, plus the heart pumping the kidneys with a liter of blood per minute, keeps the higher glomerular capillary pressure and filtration function of the kidneys. So this happens regardless of fluctuation in blood flow. So the sympathetic nervous system can stimulate the efferent arteriole to constrict during exercise when the flow of the kidney is reduced, and the glomerular capillary wall determines what is filtered and how much is filtered into the glomerular capsule. So the capillary walls are made of 3 levels from the inside out. So the endothelial has large pores that the plasma, solutes, and the proteins pass through, but not the blood cells. And the basement membrane is also made up of 3 layers fused to the endothelial. It prevents the plasma proteins from being filtered out of the bloodstream. And the epithelial layer has specialized cells called podocytes, which are attached to the basement membrane by the pedicels. They wrap around the capillaries and are described as foot processes. Also, besides the word pedicels, they leave the slits between them, and this is known as filtration slits. And there is a very thin diaphragm between the slits that acts as a final filtration before the fluid enters glomerular space. So when you look at the glomerular space, on the top, you will see the filtration slits above the slit diagram located between the brown epithelial podocytes. And these are over the glomerular base membrane and then the endothelial. And this is just a very simple drawing, a cross-section view for you to look at. So the epithelial podocytes are the brown areas that look kind of like potatoes. Then you see your basement membrane right below that and the endothelial cells. And if you look between the spaces, you'll see the slit and then the slit diaphragm that goes over everything. Okay, on this next slide, you'll see a better 3-dimensional illustration of the glomerulus on the top left. And this shows like a tiny section that is taken and blown up, and it shows how the filtration slit appears. So you can see the podocyte in the microscopic view of the slide also. You can really see the filtration when the tiny holes or pores or passages in the very first layer of the endothelial cell. It's that very most inner part there with all the holes. Followed by the basement membrane that prevents larger proteins from passing through. And lastly, the slit membrane between the pedicels, and it prevents filtration of the medium-sized proteins. A lot better diagram to take a look at. We'll wait just a minute there. Okay, so together, the glomerulus and the glomerular capsule filtering unit are known as a renal corpuscle. And this diagram shows the renal corpuscle in detail. So on the left side, the afferent arteriole, which is coming in, and the efferent arteriole will be going out. You see both of those there on the left, the coming in and the going out. On the far left, you see the cells of the distal convoluted tubule in purple. You just see the cells, you don't see the whole tube. And the glomerular capsule is in the teal color. And then you will see the glomerular space that's a lighter teal, and the pink circles are the glomerulus capillaries. And you'll see the proximal tube comes out on the right-hand side of the diagram. So the kidneys have other specialized capillaries besides the glomerular capillary bed. And these other capillaries are called peritubular capillaries, and they are tiny and they run parallel and surround the proximal and the distal tubules of the nephron, as well as the loop of Henle. So these are also known as the vasa recta and are countercurrent exchanges to process the concentrates in urine. So the glomerular filtration rate is the rate at which kidneys filter your blood. So the force for the filtering process, or outward pressure, is the blood pressure as it enters the glomerulus. This is counteracted by the inward pressure due to the hydrostatic pressure of fluid within the urinary space. So the pressure generates the proteins left in the capillaries that tend to pull water back into the circulatory system. So this is called the colloidal osmotic pressure. So net filtration pressure is the outermost pressure minus the inward pressure. So the glomerular capsule within the arteriole coming in and out, this shows the pressures, so you can follow the different colored arrows, so you can see where the hydrostatic, the colloid osmotic, and the overall pressure is leaving the capsule. So how is the glomerular filtration rate regulated? Well, we know that our blood pressure fluctuates during the day, but this has no effect on the GFR. So your body controls it by intrinsic mechanisms such as renal autoregulation. And this means that the kidney can determine the dilation or the constriction of the afferent arterioles, which will counteract changes in the blood pressure. However, it can malfunction if you have a kidney disease. So the glomerular filtration rate is on the left of the graph over the mean arterial pressure on the bottom. So notice the renal autoregulation where the GFR is maintained by that constriction or dilation. So now let's talk about the extrinsic mechanisms. The neural and hormonal control can override renal autoregulation and decrease the filtration rate when they need to. We were talking about intrinsic before. Now we're doing extrinsic. So an example is if you have a large drop in blood pressure, and this could happen, an example would be like if someone lost a lot of blood. So your nervous system will stimulate contraction of the afferent arteriole to reduce the urine production. And if your body needs more, your nervous system can activate the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. And this is a hormone system that regulates blood pressure and your fluid balance. So the atrial, natriuretic peptide is a hormone that can increase the glomerular filtration rate. And this is produced in the heart and it's secreted when the plasma volume increases. And this results in increased urine production. Now let's look at something else. Creatine. It's a waste product of creatine metabolism when creatine is metabolized to generate energy. This happens in your muscles. Creatine is reabsorbed or secreted. However, it's exclusively filtered through the kidneys. So the rate of excretion from the bloodstream is related to how efficiently the kidneys are filtering. So if you measure the amount of creatine in the blood sample and you combine it with other information such as age, gender, height, weight, ethnicity, your doctor can estimate the GFR. And this gives them an idea how well that your kidneys are functioning. So if we look at this very basic chart here, the GFR from 60 to 120 on the right in the green is normal. Well, if you've got a patient on the left in the yellow area from 15 to 60, this shows some kidney disease is going on based on those calculations. And anything from 15 down, it indicates kidney failure, and that is very crucial to be able to determine that. Okay, so we're just going to take a few minutes for discussion and questions. Here's another really good diagram of the GFR. You can see the afferent going in, the efferent where it is coming out, and you can see right where the glomerulus is. It's a better drawing of the capsule, and you can see the proximal convoluted tubule also. So just take a few minutes for discussion and questions. These are the works that I cited for this PowerPoint. Thank you.